The Rams defense was one of the best units last year in the NFL, and the optimism for us Browns fans is that the Browns defense could look something like that next year. The Browns and Rams both ran a very high amount of two high coverages, which means dropping two safeties back deep. The Browns ran it the most in the NFL, and the Rams were not that far behind at 8th. Both defenses don't like to blitz. They like to send 4 guys after the quarterback and drop the rest into coverage. But of course, the Browns and Rams defense were on polar opposites in terms of yards per game allowed, and the Browns defense was basically a train wreck, while the Rams was one of the best units in the NFL. Despite this, I think the Browns made huge strides and are actively trying to replicate what the Rams did last year in this modern pass-happy era that could make them one of the best defenses next year in 2021. So with all that said, let's analyze some film. One thing that the Rams do so well is that they move their safeties pre and post snap all the time, and it creates a lot of confusion in the quarterback's mind. So the Eagles are actually running a corner flat concept. So Wentz has to read this first from the left side, and if that's not there, then he has to improvise. But he's going to be reading the corner, he's going to be reading that safety Taylor Rapp, and he's going to see if that corner comes open. If not, he checks the flat. If that's not there, then he has to move and improvise, maybe scramble. But he's got to read those two guys. Those are the two guys he's got to read. So what the Rams do here is they do a lot of moving post-snap. The Rams do that a lot with their safeties. So Taylor Rapp comes up on the tight end, looks like it's a man coverage because, again, if you look at Carson Wentz, he's dialed in on the left side of the field. He sees Taylor Rapp immediately jam the tight end, and he sees the corner, or the safety there, play off coverage, and it looks like man coverage as he's looking at the receiver, which is in the way of the quarterback. So Wentz, you have 3 seconds to throw that ball. He sees man coverage. He also sees that safety in the middle come down a little bit to pretend as if he's going to be the robber defender in a cover 1, so he'll cover the middle of the field. So there's a lot of that Wentz has to pay attention to, because there's a lot of possibilities with all this pre- and post-snap motion of these safeties. So this could be a cover 1 robber, right? It could be a cover 2 man, and it could also be a zone coverage. And this is a cover 6, and Wentz reads this, sees that nothing's open, does a good job of reading it and not forcing the throw that would be picked off, because this route combination would work against man coverage most of the time. But anyway, Carson Wentz, he gets swallowed by the pass rush, is forced to kind of chuck it to his right, and it's picked off. And that's what the Rams are so great at doing. They have 3 great safeties that they can move around the entire field and really cause a lot of confusion, and the quarterbacks, in this case Wentz, don't have a lot of time to react because of that pass rush. The reason why the Rams were so effective using pre- and post-snap motions of their safeties is because they have many versatile safeties that could do many things on a given play. When the Rams employed their dime package, which is 3 safeties on the field and 6 defensive backs, they allowed the 3rd lowest quarterback rating at 54 and had the 6th lowest completion percentage allowed at just over 56%. For comparison, the Browns allowed the 3rd highest when they had their dime package on the field at just over 108, and a very high 65% completion percentage allowed, at which was the 8th highest in the NFL. This disparity is because the Browns didn't have those versatile safeties. Andrew Sendejo, who was their starting free safety, doesn't have a lot of versatility. He can't come and be that robber defender for you. He can't really do much in the run game, so he's really stuck to be that center field safety, while the Rams have a guy like John Johnson who can be that center field safety and can also play in the box. Johnson is a much-needed addition in this safety room for the Browns because in this scheme that the Rams and Browns run, they use a lot of dime package, which is a little bit of a lighter but faster package that compared to what most teams use. They, Rams and Browns speaking, use one less linebacker and instead put a safety on the field. So you're going to need a safety that can do multiple things and essentially fill in for that linebacker, but give you that added bonus of speed. Last year, the Browns allowed the most completions to tight ends in the middle of the field at 63, and the Rams allowed much fewer, which was 19th most, which was 43. And then if you look at what the Browns are trying to do, they're trying to fix this issue. If you look at the amount of completions allowed by safeties when targeted in the middle of the field within 15 yards of the line of scrimmage, which isolates safeties' short area quickness and their ability to break up passes kind of in that middle range of the field, John Johnson, Justin Simmons, and Jeremy Chin were tied for least, with only allowing 3 each of them. And like I said, Johnson isn't just a box safety. He has some serious abilities in the back end of a defense. And this is what Johnson will bring. He's going to bring that versatility and that ability for you to disguise your coverages and cause the quarterback to doubt what he's reading pre and post snap, because the quarterback will never get a true sense of what Johnson and the other Brown safeties are doing on a given play, because Joe Woods will now have the ability to move these guys around pre and post snap. So just some background on this play. The Rams are running what's known as a cover 3 Mabel. So the Mabel stands for man, basically, and what it means is against a trips set, which is 3 receivers on one side and 1 on the other, the outside corner is going to cover the outside receiver opposite the trip side, man to man, and the Sam linebacker will cover the running back man to man as well. And then the rest is a pretty standard cover 3, just with match principles. And what match principles are is it's a little complicated. So the near side corner on your screen is going to drop into a deep third, and the safety, John Johnson, is going to cover the middle third. That's going to be the guys that it looks like a standard cover 3, right? Then the corner, Troy Hill, who's in the slot, the nickel corner, is going to carry the number 2 receiver on the trips formation vertical if he goes vertical, and if that receiver breaks inside, he is going to cover that hook curl and look for the number 1 receiver if he breaks inside. Then the linebacker lined up on the number 3 receiver is going to push to the number 2 receiver and float in that hook curl. And then what's interesting about what the Rams do in this cover 3 Mabel, which I find very interesting and telling, is they're going to have the safety near that number 10 yard mark there, Taylor Rapp, actually push to the number 3 receiver instead of the Sam linebacker, who's actually going to cover man-to-man against the running back. Normally, in most defenses, the free safety in this case, which is Taylor Rapp, would actually be the one to cover man-to-man against the running back, and the Sam linebacker would actually push to the number 3. The Rams did this season because they just want to fool quarterbacks, and they did it very frequently. Because if you look at it from the beginning of the snap, it looks like a standard 2 high shell cover man across the board, then the safeties start to move, and in no way does this look like it could be a potential cover 3. So what the Rams do so well is they use unconventional ways of rolling into certain coverages, and in this case, they bring their free safety to cover the number 3, and quarterback Carson Wentz gets very fooled by this. He doesn't recognize it. He obviously thinks this is man coverage, potential 2 high shell, or maybe even a cover 1 robber, because the safety, Taylor Rapp, moves down a little bit, because Carson Wentz progressions go from left to right in this certain play. So it's very interesting the way the Rams do this. They had a lot of success rolling their coverages, and then Johnson obviously highlights his natural instincts to break on the receiver as soon as he reads the quarterback throwing that ball, and those instincts he shows in the line of scrimmage playing in the box, he also shows playing as a center field safety 30 yards away from the line of scrimmage. So the addition of John Johnson is huge because, again, Joe Woods now has that flexibility to disguise his coverages because he has one more great versatile safety. And the other one that the Browns have, could be 2, but one that really showed out last year was Ronnie Harrison, and I think John Johnson's addition is only going to elevate him. Ronnie Harrison was promising, although painfully average for the Jaguars in 2018 and 2019, but really emerged with the Browns in 2020, and his PFF grades reflect that. Ronnie Harrison has always been a rangy safety with great cover instincts, but the Jaguars continue to use him in the box, using him in the box more than 30% of the time, and the Browns have significantly reduced that amount. Now that Johnson is here, he can afford to be that rangy free safety, and he's better suited to play man-to-man. That's not to say that he will never be that robber defender or play in the box, because he is pretty good at that. It's just that John Johnson now has that clear role because John Johnson is just better suited for that, and Ronnie Harrison is better suited to be that all-encompassing free safety. Here he is going up against Jack Doyle in the Colts game. The Browns are just running standard cover 1, single high with man across the board, and Phillip Rivers' first progression is going to be Jack Doyle on the out route, and here Harrison does a great job getting in the face of Doyle and sticking with him throughout the route. Jack Doyle's just going to release straight off the line of scrimmage, try to create that body separation, but Harrison has great inside hand placement, smothers him throughout the route, does not hold him, but makes sure he is always physically in contact with the tight end, and he carries that throughout the route and ultimately breaks it up and almost had a pick. Is the definition of versatile. People called him a mini Jamal Adams. I don't know if I'm quite there yet, but he has the potential to be. Here he is in coverage against Kyle Pitts in the Georgia game of 2019. Georgia's going to run a crosser to Pitts, and Grant Elpit is the single high safety here, and he does an Grant Elpit that people throw out there. He has untapped potential as that Jamal Adams role. I can understand the comp there, because if you look at this, he looks eerily similar to him. So here the Gators are going to run a designed quarterback blast to the right side, a power scheme, and look at the width of Grant Elpit's base. You can see him get so wide like a loaded spring, and when the running back comes to block him, he converts that weight to his left foot and darts and sidesteps out of the block and wraps up on the quarterback. That is what Jamal Adams does for a living, and Grant Elpit could be following in his footsteps with this untapped potential that you can see on this play. In today's NFL, you have to put more defensive backs on the field. The league just likes to pass more, they like to put more receivers on the field, and it's just becoming a more modern, lighter offensive era. That's why defenses have to put more defensive backs on the field, and the Browns recognize it. The Rams used a lot of motion, put less linebackers on the field, and instead kept safeties, and ultimately were in incredibly good defense. And the Browns are replicating that. They're going to have a trio of safeties that can do pretty much anything that you ask them to do. They can cover, they can blitz, they can play the run, they can do pretty much everything. You've got John Johnson, who can play short area quickness. He can be that robber defender. You've got Ronnie Harrison, who's more of that rangy free safety. And then Grant Elpit, who is pretty much everything. I mean, this safety group is possibly the best in the NFL. And by any indication of what the Rams did with their safeties and moving them pre and post snap, I would say that the Browns defense could be pretty good next year.